Okay, with that, we'll move to item 4, which is request to address the board. First on the list is Joe Bonadies. Welcome, Joe.
Get away with me again. Or, hold on a second. Wait. Greetings. Wow, you actually said 6.2. I'm impressed. Today, I'd like to yet again talk about transparency. In most communications, the new bond, now looking at 3.25, is called an increase. And the only place you had previously said any of that was in the FAQs of November 11th, but not in Forward Together newsletters or press releases. Well, I, like most residents in the county, had the joy of receiving my winter tax bill recently, and I had a chance to review all the educational charges on my tax bill. I, like most citizens, did not read the details of my tax bill in the past. So instead of my previous description of hiding the fact that it was 2.95 plus 3.25, let's look at some real numbers. As you can see, MPS really has 3.65 mils against my property already. That's the 2015 bond plus TAC plus SROs, which would then go up to 6.9 mils after this bond for something like 10 years. And the non-homestead properties actually go up to 24.5 mils. So the renters will get hit as well. If I add all the ESA charges of 2.16, the Delta College charges of 2.24, and the overbearing state charge of 6 mils, I am currently at about 14 mils and on my way to 17.3 with this new bond. I'll send you the spreadsheet in the mail. Don't bother writing it. Wow, I was amazed at that total. It surprised me. You can show the audience and then, thank you. Going further down Transparency Road, it has been really quiet regarding no pool. After the encouraging demonstration by the swimmers last month, crickets. Listening to the last meeting again at 1.5 speed, I found President Roush's comments around, quote, "You would let us pool trump the needs of our youngest learners," unquote, rather insulting to the audience that is watching the resources they count on continue on a planned decline with no communication on upcoming resolution. They were not looking for perfect. They were going to vote against it getting worse. I would have thought that the outcry at the last board meeting, based on that, the FAQs would have been updated to provide some acknowledgement of the pool taking an alternate route than MPS ownership. Alas, no. Does anyone sitting up there have a concept of damage control? So with your timeline of May 2025 for a bond vote, you may want to have at least a plan forward on a pool by April, or you will be enhancing the no vote even further. As for me, I was amazed at the tax bite of education on my property, and I'm concerned that the board is on its way to being addicted to overlapping bond proposals to address our aging fleet of buildings. From my perspective, you are writing a mortgage on my property. Thank you.
So Joe, you want us to make the millage bigger to pay for a pool? Is that your suggestion?
Some version that is
I don't get it, man.
rational.
All right. I don't get it, man. All right. Bill Domina.
Good evening. At the previous board meeting, I requested more details on the reasons why the existing schools, such as Northeast, could not be updated instead of being demolished and replaced by a new school. I realized that I needed to provide more detail on what I, and perhaps many taxpayers, want to know, so the following type of analysis would be helpful. If we take aesthetics and upgrading the school building to the latest trends in school design out of the analysis, please consider listing the perceived deficit, such as needing a new roof, against a realistic estimate on the cost to correct that specific deficit. I also believe that this analysis should not be done by MPS maintenance personnel, but by an external entity, such that you would assure impartiality and also have expertise in the specific deficit, which, maintenance people don't always have the expertise, and Brad, you can address that electrically as well. Off the top of my head, I can see having areas that are perceived deficits such as the roof, HVAC, lighting, windows and doors, asbestos removal, parking lots, interior painting, and restoring the pool, etc. Those kind of things could be listed in a spreadsheet, and then the people who are going to be looked at to pay this and say, oh, there's some data. It's actually much more expensive to do the retrofits than it is for the new building. That would work in your favor, but I want to see the data. Okay. So for each school deemed at end of life, the deficits along with the proposed corrective action and line item cost could be totaled, aggregated, and compared against the cost of the proposed new schools. I believe that that information is presented, when that is presented to the taxpayers, we could make a reasoned evaluation whether or not to support the bond. And it certainly would have the best chance of changing my leanings at this moment. I think this would be very good for you because right now we know that the path is set. Okay, we've just voted on that. And I think it'd be very good for you to have this kind of analysis to show people like me who are doubtful that it is a fiscally responsible method, as opposed to saying we need to replace them their end of life. Because I don't know how much it would cost to retrofit a building, but if it's 60 million per building, well, okay, good. I have that, maybe I'll support it. So I ask you to do that if you would. On a totally separate topic, I noticed we're going to go into closed session on the legal matters. I guess I'd be real curious, what kind of legal cases are we pending? It doesn't have to be detailed, but we're paying $3,000 for these different law firms. I was like, what kind of lawsuits? Is that a public thing that we can see? Like, are you fighting against Freedom of Information Act? Are you someone's for sexual harassment? What is the case? I'd like to know as a taxpayer the issues. So thank you.
Mention a couple address from the public comment session. Joe, I just wanted to address a couple things on property taxes. I don't think you're paying operating millage, or you shouldn't be if you're homestead property of 9 mills. So I think you need to lower your estimate of 17 mills by 9. The SROs are not an MPS assessed millage rate. Those were voted on by all county taxpayers and not assessed by MPS. Those are for all school districts. So you should be paying MPS supplemental, MPS bond 2015 are the only MPS assessed millage rates. If you see it differently, happy to have a conversation with you. Bill, I apologize for not following up with you. I'll make sure that we do that on the cost benefit analysis. I do want to make sure that you know we do work with outside professional firms that have engineers and architects involved to assess our facilities. From a useful life standpoint, we don't have the expertise internally to do so. I was actually just talking to Penny the other day about how many work orders we have just in Carpenter alone. In a 100-year-old building, you can imagine that our maintenance crew is over there almost daily, if not multiple times a day. So I think they're buying parts for the boiler on eBay. So this is where we're at. But I appreciate it. Appreciate the comments, and we'll make sure to address your questions.